Well, hey everyone, welcome to Ask the Professor. I am your host, Professor Ben, and we are joined today by our amazing producer, Ari Justice. Thank you for jumping in, making it all happen as always. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Heck yes. And today's conversation is pretty hot. We're talking about embracing healthy conflict. Such an important topic when it comes to any team working together. And how can we better utilize what we know about DISC assessment to really tailor our approach to embracing healthy conflict? So, pretty hot topic today, Ari. And I think we're ready just to dive in because we got to get into the weeds and some of these things. Are you ready?
For sure. I am so excited to talk about healthy conflict because I was terrified of conflict. And now seeing it from this perspective, it really means it changes the game.
It does. That's a good point. Like, so some of us are like, oh my gosh, conflict. I don't want to bring this up. Or if I bring it up, am I going to hurt someone's feelings? Or are they going to get mad at me?
Yeah.
And there's to this visual right here, there's so much at stake when it comes to ignoring conflict. And so, like, look at this right here. So the stats are telling us that $350 billion of lost productivity just because conflict goes undiscussed, right? Unresolved.
Yeah.
And a lot of this comes from, well, actually, I'm gonna quiz you. Where do you think some of this comes from? Ari, like why are we seeing lost productivity when there's no conflict? No right or wrong answer. Just what's your opinion on this?
I think the time spent on the conflict and not directly addressing it or avoiding it and
Ooh,
having those
okay.
missed opportunities or coming up with a better solution, because you and I talk about how conflict can be productive, and there's productive discussions happening back and forth, and then you even come up with a better solution in the end. So you could miss something and that could cost, like, I don't know, good folks of dollars.
Lots and lots of money. Yeah. So that's a great point. So we're not coming up with a better idea.
Mhm.
Right? So if something's going wrong on the team, and because no one wants to raise their hand or embrace it or address it, now we're not coming up with a better solution that could reduce that friction. Talk about loss of opportunity there. And I would add to that too is that team members get disengaged when they see things not getting addressed. They see problems not getting addressed. If I'm a top performer and I see this conflict and maybe I'm not ready to address it, or I don't feel like it's my place, I'm going to get disengaged. And that's what the research shows, is that I'm going to not work as hard. I'm going to put my attention elsewhere because as a team, we're not holding each other accountable. We're not addressing what the root cause really is.
Yeah, we were talking about this disengagement earlier and how those high performing teams or team members, when the conflict's not being addressed, they kind of disengage. We're like, okay, well, if my work is not being appreciated, my commitment level is going down. And this
Absolutely.
graphic goes perfectly with that train of thought. And having conflict increases the level of commitment from your team members.
It really does, right? It's like, okay, we're here to solve problems. And of course, it does have to be that healthy conflict,
Yes.
that perfect balance. So I know we were talking earlier, you put a cool visual together on what happens when we don't resolve conflict. And that's an important thing for us to see here. So like you look at this and you go, all right, if we're damaging relationships or we're eroding at trust, we know right out of the gate that our team's not going to be as productive as it can be, because just those first two things that we see right out the gate, right? So, and then of course, now it becomes our communication gets lowered because there's less trust. We're not trying to engage with each other anymore. And we start missing those opportunities time and time again. As a team, if we're going to look at the synergy that we need to create to be successful, if our team is missing opportunities because we're not communicating, because there's no trust, our competition's team is likely not doing that, right? If they're working together with synergy, we're missing out right out of the gate.
So true. So true.
Yeah. Bad place to be. Bad place to be.
Not a
So, how does healthy commitment build, or how's healthy conflict actually build commitment? That's really what we need to be able to see. So, on this visual here, you'll see you've got a couple ways, a couple of angles to look at this. And I'm going to go to slide 3, if you would, on that one, Ari. Yeah, let's check this one out. This one, you put this one together, and this one like just hit me so hard when I saw this, because lack of conflict. So if we're like everything's okay and there's no problems here, right? We're kind of just really ignoring it. We're reducing the opportunity to solve these problems,
Mhm.
right? And then that's bad. Where there's the fear of speaking up. Well, if I say something, what if I'm going to hurt someone's feeling? Or what if I'm going to get reprimanded for spitting out an idea that maybe is good or maybe it's not, right? Think of the culture that we're building on the team. Whereas if we're embracing healthy conflict, now we're solving problems together.
And looking at things from different perspectives.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. And that's where teams are going to work their best. That's where teams are going to pull out all of the smarts that are within the individuals, so we can go out there and win more often. Such an important part there.
Ooh, we got a comment from Iris. So saying its conflict is worth more. Yes.
Ooh, okay, yeah, she's saying never thought of it that way. Yeah, so absolutely. So conflict is actually a good thing. We're going to bring it up and we're going to solve problems around it. Now, here's a really important part when it comes to conflict, is that you've got like two sides of this continuum. On one side of conflict, you can look at this as, okay, if we are at each other's throats all the time, if we are just being nitpicky and wanting to hurt people's feelings on purpose, that's not a healthy conflict, right? Clearly, that's not healthy conflict. And no one wins in that situation. That's one side of the continuum. On the other side of the continuum, you've got this kind of like artificial harmony, right?
Mhm.
This apathy of, I'm not going to bring it up if he or she doesn't bring it up. That doesn't work either. We need to be right in the middle of those two. Okay. It's the conflict that kind of sort of might hurt someone's feelings at first, but then we work through it and we're actually all better off because of it. That's right there in the middle, right? It's not going at nitpicking at somebody, and it's not ignoring those problems. So when we think about conflict and we think about utilizing DISC and why it's so important to engage with tools like DISC, because there's a lot at stake if we're not addressing conflict in a healthy manner and if we're just ignoring it. So we really don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah,
Right?
before we jump into DISC, I want to bring up something that we teach in our 5 pillars program, and
Yeah.
that is the conflict navigation framework. You know, most teams don't have a cohesive thought or cohesive perspective on how they should handle conflict. And it's our jobs as leaders to define, okay, we have a conflict. How are we going to approach it? What is the tone we're going to approach it as? What is the form of medium we're going to communicate when conflict is happening? So when you identify and put in some structures on what that ideal conflict point looks like, your team isn't going to be guessing. It's like, okay, maybe we're like in between, like I want to say constructive and destructive, but like that's the ideal point. But like a little over to the left or a little over to the right. So identifying it makes it easier for the team.
So verbalizing it, right? Labeling it is such, you bring up a really important point here, is if healthy conflict becomes a buzzword within our team, it's so much easier to address it. And to your point, it gives us like a roadmap on how to address it.
Yes.
And these are things that we just don't learn in school. Sometimes we don't learn them in our family dynamics or our friendship dynamics. And so, as leaders, we want to present a roadmap and a guide to how to address this conflict on the team. And so now I've got like a 5-step plan that I can put into action right now when I'm not feeling the love from somebody on the team, or if I feel like there's something that we're missing and we got to address it. I'm just going to follow that plan that we created as a team.
It
that
all goes
roadmap helps.
back to those SOPs.
SOPs. Let's gotta love those. So, so thinking about healthy conflict versus unhealthy conflict, what does that even look like? How would I even start building that plan? And there's something that we say all the time, Ari, I know you know what I'm about to say here, is point fingers at the process, not the people.
Yeah.
Right. So many times when there's conflict on a team in the workplace, there's a failure of process more so than a failure of people. That doesn't mean that as people we don't fail. And of course, we definitely have our own faults. We're not perfect. So that's why those processes are there. So if our processes aren't built correctly and we don't have a guide on how to address these specific issues, we tend to point fingers at the people instead. We know what happens when you do that.
Not good. It is
Not good.
not good. And if you have a process, like one of the 4 groups of where conflict is mainly derived from is because there's a miscommunication. But if you're pointing at the process and figure out how is there a better way to communicate this, there's going to be I lost my train of thought, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, there's an action plan, right? There's something that we can lean on in order to solve it versus just what we've learned growing up, right? It's just that's going to be our default if we don't have a specific guide on how to get there.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And we don't want to do that. So this visual helps a ton right here, focusing on the issues, right? Not the personalities. The open communication is going to help a lot. We want to stay away from aggressive behavior or negative emotions. That's not going to help anybody. Or just one person dominating the conversation is not going to help anybody. We've got to make sure that we're building cohesion in the team. That is where we're going to see the best success. So just because it's conflict doesn't mean it has to be ugly. Those two can live separately for sure. And there's a really good visual back that you posted on LinkedIn, I think, fairly recently.
Yes.
The ways to embrace healthy conflict. And this is one of my favorite ones here at the last one, right on the bottom, is I hear this a lot in discussions where someone might say, yes, Ari, I see your point, but my point is more important. That's very different than Ari, I see your point, and my point is also important. Yeah. Right? That changes the dynamic of the conversation so much. Instead of saying I'm better than you or you're better than me, what we're saying is that both of these opinions or perspectives live at the same time. So how are we going to handle it?
Yeah, it changes from being defensive to being more collaborative with the final outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, by the way, as a team, we're all trying to get to that same outcome. If we're a true team and if we're set up correctly, we try to get to that common outcome. So everyone wins when you take that better approach.
For sure. All right, let's get into DISC. My favorite.
Yes, I know. Okay, can't hold you back. I can't hold you back. So maybe, Ari, again, I'll put you on the spot again. I love doing that, making you work a little bit. Give us just kind of the 5-second overview of each of the styles for DISC, just in case those that are watching now haven't seen our previous episodes or don't know much about DISC.
Yeah, so this is a little cheat sheet that Benchmark kind of created. So the D styles are going to want things quick, fast, kind of like how I'm talking. So be brief, be bright, be gone. The I styles, they love to get involved. They want to be part of the process. They love collaborating, so involve them. S styles, they are going to be the structure, stability, and support for you. So show that you care. And the C styles are the analytical types, loves data. So show them the data, give them what they like, and that will be easier to collaborate with them.
Heck yeah. So we got a question from the chat here. What if you're a D style and aggressive without really realizing it? And by the way, that's a great question because that does happen a lot.
Yes.
And we'll hear the non-D styles, any of the others going, oh my gosh, this person is so abrupt or so abrasive, and they let it get under their skin. So the real answer to that question for any of these styles, because all of these styles have superpowers, every single one of them, and every single one of them has blind spots. And so the only way that we can assure that the blind spots are not holding the team back is by discussing them up front. So knowing that when a D style person gets to the point very quickly in a meeting, or in a team meeting, or in a discussion, if I understand that that D style is not addressing that abruptness at me as an individual, but really just at the concept, that makes it a lot easier for us to get along and communicate well. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's just easier, right, when we do that. So both parties in the conversation, or everybody in the team meeting, needs to realize, hey, as a D style, I don't want to come across too abrasive. And as a non-D style, I don't want to take what the D style is doing and take it personally and let it get under my skin. Again, those two realities have to live at the same time. And that's how this really helps.
For sure.
Hopefully that answers your question there. Most importantly is start having these conversations ahead of time, before the conflict, right? In these offsite team meetings, so that we can come up with that framework and get a better understanding what that looks like. So now when we're making decisions as our specific communication style, or if we are, if we're doing something different because of our communication style, because of just our hard wiring of how we prefer to communicate, and it's rubbing somebody else the wrong way, we're picking on D styles here, but we could pick on C styles. So maybe the C style is moving too slowly for the rest of the team. Maybe they're worried about details that don't seem important right now, but will be later. So there's that superpower and that blind spot coming in at the same time. So let's understand the fears that each of the styles have, because that's going to help paint a picture of what to expect from them. So going back to that C style, great visual here, Ari. C styles, they don't want to be criticized because of any flaw or error that they have displayed, right? They want to be accurate. So they're going to move a little bit slower so that they can maintain their accuracy. Well, if I'm a D style and I want to see things move quick, that could drive me crazy. If I'm an I style and I'm ready just to go do something fun, right, make something happen, that C style could drive me crazy. But again, there's that superpower and that blind spot that's living at the same time. So Ari, what about S styles? I always pick on you for S styles. What are they? What kind of fears drive their decision making?
Yeah, so disappointing others, not meeting up to their expectations, that's gonna kind of slow their decision making. It's like, is this the right thing for the team? That show me you care. They care about their team. They want their team to have everything as possible. So disappointing them is their number one fear when it comes to approaching things. And remember, when you're having conflict, maybe it's because they have a fear of something, like being criticized, losing influence, maybe disappointing. Maybe it's going back to that. So just remembering that we have these fears in the back of our heads, and say, hey, maybe I know that this isn't going to be the best thing for the team, but in the long run, it's going to work out perfectly.
So that S style, and what's great about this is, like, you can see the superpower and the blind spot at the same time so clearly right here, right? That S style wants to keep everybody, maybe we can say keep them happy, or keep them given what they need to be successful. And it's really hard to balance that, especially as the team grows, or just trying to read somebody's mind and what that is. So if I'm a D style working with an S style and I want to see things happen quickly, and the S style slowing down so that to make sure that the whole team is coming along, you could see the oil and water happening right there between those two. Yeah,
So
big time.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, Ben. I
Ooh,
know we
okay, do it.
have limited time, but as a D style, if you see an S style struggling with making a decision because of that fear of disappointing others, what should they do?
Yeah, so as a D style, how would I address that?
Yeah.
So asking first off, and most for all of these styles, is talking about it, right? So we have a specific. So for example, if I'm talking to an S style and maybe they're running a little bit behind schedule for a project, what's holding you back, right? So we've got this timeline. Ideally, the team agreed upon the timeline, but sometimes we can't. Okay, so the timeline is just thrown in our lap and we have to follow it. That happens. So we have the timeline that we're trying to stay on, or we need to stay on. Mr. or Mrs. S style, what's slowing us down? right? So that explanation might be a combination of there are other players on the team that need support. And so I'm pulling away from my responsibilities so I don't disappoint others. Okay. And so reframing it for the S style to understand that sometimes we can't change our path for one individual at a time
Mhm.
because it's going to negatively impact the whole team. And so, when an S style can understand that I might have to let one little duckling run run loose in order to save the whole team, that can reframe it for an S style and help him or her understand I've got to worry about us hitting this deadline because
Yeah.
that's going to impact all of us.
Oh, love it. Love that
Yeah,
example.
absolutely. So we got a chance to dig. I'm watching our time and it flies by because we're just always
Oh.
having so much fun. Maybe we just kind of touch real quick on like loss of influence for that I style. We see this one present itself in reality all the time. As an I style, I want to be important. I want to be part of the team, in the spotlight for the team. And if I'm being shut out, even if it's something that's going to benefit the whole team, that can freak me out.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, am I getting fired? Am I going to let go? Only because just maybe for a day or two, I'm not in the spotlight. So having that same conversation up front with that I style on your team so that they realize that, yeah, you're taking a back seat just for a little bit right now, but don't worry, we're going to get you back in the spotlight and use those superpowers of yours very soon. That conversation up front can really help ease some of those fears for I styles.
For sure.
So with that, we've got a great conversation going that we need to make sure that we keep moving forward in our next time together, Ari. So what do we have to look forward to? Let's look ahead a little bit, right? So situations that create conflict by disc style. So understanding that the disc style is going to play a big role in what conflict looks like for a D style versus an S style for a C style or an I style, and then how are we going to address it based on our communication style? So when we get back together, Ari, we'll pick up on that there so we can get into the weeds and better understand how to utilize everything we know about DISC and communication styles to better embrace healthy conflict. Does that sound good?
Oh, that sounds great. I'm excited. Like I said, I was terrified of conflict. But having some tools and some reframing what conflict looks like, it's definitely not as scary as I thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, no way. And while I've got you here, as we're wrapping this up, where can those in the audience that are just now chiming in, where can they go find this full live audience, this live episode, as well as other live episodes that are recorded?
Yeah, you guys can visit our website at mybenchmarktraining.com/resources/ask the professor, and then you can find us there. There's also some topics about DISC and accountability and how to leverage DISC to be a better leader.
So much good stuff on that website. Thank you, Ari, for that. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 11:45 Eastern. Till then, take care.
Bye, guys.